Podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the shipbuilding world of Corellia. I am the roguish knave with romance in my heart and piloting in my blood. You can call me Dave. And the owner and captain of the Millennium Falcon, the man who also has a trick up his sleeve, Joe.
What's happening, partner?
This is episode 67, and in this episode we will discuss James Mangold has signed on to do the long-awaited Boba Fett movie. I wasn't waiting for it, but now I may be. Something different this week. Joe and I do a 2017 flashback and add a couple of honorable mentions to our best of 2017 list. We'll explain when we get there. And then, we've bitched about it. We've bemoaned it. We've begrudgingly went to the theater to see it. Now sit back and enjoy our review of Solo, a Star Wars story. Woo! And, well, yes, this is actually quite surprising. This is one of those rare occasions. Joe and I actually did a video cast before we did the podcast. Normally we go the other way around. So, no surprise. We already know kind of how we're feeling. So, I'm a little bit disoriented over it, because normally I'm like sitting here on pins and needles waiting for the things like, oh, what does he think? What does he think? But, yep. So, if you haven't seen the video cast, here is the full poop, and let's get to it.
Han, look out! Boba Fett is right behind you! All right, when I give the signal, we get him. What happened?
He fell.
Huh?
He fell. He fell in the pit.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story goes that James Mangold is writing and directing a Boba Fett Star Wars movie. This is not rumored anymore. This is Hollywood Reporter, Variety, all the places are reporting it now, and he seems to be excited by it. Now, funnily enough, I'm actually a little more excited about this, even more now. When we get to the Solo Star Wars review, you'll understand why. But even more now than before. I think that if anybody can do the true, like, anti-hero story in a Star Wars universe, I think Mangold definitely has the, what's the word I'm looking for? The chops. The chops is a very simple word. The reputation, the ability. I'm not sure what to say. Let me put it this way. He's getting a blank check from me for the Boba Fett movie because of Logan. I'm just going to come right out and say it. He's got a blank check from me. And depending upon how it comes out, this could be amazing, personally. And I'm actually very excited by this particular thing. And I don't even care about the character of Boba Fett. I just want to see what Mangold does to him.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is honestly, Mangold is the key there. He is the guy who, like you said, he's got carte blanche as far as I'm concerned. He's
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
He's walking on water after Logan, in my eyes. So it will be very interesting to see what he does. And the thing is, people say Boba Fett. Ooh, Boba Fett. I'm always like, yeah. Boba Fett to me is one of those characters that people sort of put things onto. You know, and like, oh, I like him because he's cool. I'm like, is he, or do you just think he's cool? Like, do you just imagine him to be cool? He's almost like you said, a blank slate before. You know, I kind of feel like he's, I don't know, like, for some reason, everybody just sort of gravitated towards him, like he was the coolest thing. Okay, well, we'll see. But yeah, Mangold, he's a very capable writer-director. So if anybody can handle it, he can.
Agreed. And it's been a while since I've actually said, hey, I'm kind of looking forward to this new Star Wars movie that we know nothing about just yet.
Yeah. And he's, by the way, and we still don't have a Ben Kenobi movie yet, huh?
No, don't even get me started on that one.
They still have not announced that yet, which is really bizarre.
I'm kind of hoping, well, we're going to get to it when we talk to Solo, but I'm kind of hoping that the moderate box office of Solo doesn't torpedo a lot of these side story movies. I'm a little worried about that.
We'll talk about it. I don't think they will, but what I do wonder is if we'll get a course correction. Because there's no way that somebody's going to go, people are sick of Star Wars, let's put it to bed. No. They Star Wars has enough clout that they will green light projects, but again, they just might put different faces behind it.
Mangold has quite a pedigree. Copland, which is, if you haven't seen that movie, excellent movie with Sylvester Stallone and Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta. I mean, just really, really good movie. He also did Identity, another movie that I really enjoyed. Walk the Line, Girl Interrupted, 3:10 to Yuma, and of course Wolverine and Logan. This guy, he's legit. He can do this.
Agreed.
Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up.
Squadron 40! Die!
So what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, we are now 6 months into the new year. Joe and I did our top 10 lists of 2017, and we acknowledged, even as we were doing it, that we hadn't seen everything, and there's a couple of things that we'd like to check out before the new year comes out, before the end of the year comes out. And we have decided to try this new segment where, now that we're at this halfway point, let's see some of the movies from 2017 that we didn't put on our top 10 list, and see if we could, if we could find anything that we would have had we had the opportunity to actually see them, because we have lives and, responsibilities. And as much as we enjoy doing this podcast, it doesn't pay the bills, so we've kind of got to put the bills first, Yeah. But we have since caught, and we're going to go over a couple of them. So, Joe, how many do you got? I have 3 that I would seriously consider putting on my 10 list if I could have. How about you?
I also have 3. I'm going to cheat and throw out 3 little runners up. I will not embellish on them. I will just say that I finally saw The Shape of Water, The Florida Project, and The Disaster Artist. Very good films. I recommend checking them out for their own unique reasons. But here are the 3 that I came up with.
Okay.
In no particular order, and I am not even going to get into whether they'd be on the top 10 or as a runner-up or whatever, but these absolutely positively would have gotten mentioned. Number 1, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Tremendous film, and again, one of those films that you definitely get what they're throwing at you. This is a film about violence, about revenge, and about how, that if you start down that road, it really does never end. And it starts to, revenge starts to be just something once you get a taste of it, kind of like the kid from Deadpool, if you get a taste of it, you'll go down this road and the road never seems to end. Even when you think you've kind of, made peace with something. Excellent performances, great, interesting film all around. Number 2, Ghost Story. This is a weird one. I don't know if you even know what this is.
No, I can't say. There were 2 movies last year called Ghost Story. One was A Ghost Story, and one was called Ghost Story. Which one are you talking about?
I believe this is A Ghost Story.
Okay.
It's got
Joaquin Phoenix?
No, Casey Affleck.
Okay, that's the other one. Yes, go on.
I don't want to. It's hard to talk about this one without spoilers. I don't want to give a lot away. Only to say that it is really, honestly, not what it was. Not what I thought this was going to be. it was. I mean, again, how it's a fascinating story. It's kind of. I want to say it's exactly what it says it is. It is a ghost story. It is a look into the idea of what you are, I suppose, after you've passed on and after you've made the decision to cling to this world as a ghost. And what would that be like? And is it worth it? You know, to sit here and sort of watch the world go by. And frankly, it stops really being about ghosts and about the people that you started to, you know, walk around and cling to, and really starts to be more about life itself. Because it's, you know, again, if you make this decision, you're here for the long haul, I suppose. So yeah, it's a fascinating film, and you know, I kind of found that it was a little slow to pick up, like it was a little slow moving in the beginning, but once you sort of get it, you're on board, you know? And again, I enjoy the hell out of it. I definitely would check it out. Lastly, I, Tonya. These films can be really hit and miss, you know, when you start doing these funny biopics about weird people and weird situations, and this was a weird one. This was really a weird one, and it really did shed some light on kind of a very one-sided story when it happened. You know, I remember when this happened in real life. Tonya Harding was the girl everyone loved to hate, and poor little Nancy Kerrigan got hurt, and everyone kind of cried and, ooh, that rotten old Tonya Harding, you know. But yeah, there really is more to the story, and it really does sort of make you see a bigger picture. And just for entertainment value, again, these kinds of stories that, you know, they one that comes to mind would be Boogie Nights, you know, where it's kind of got that tacky feel to it, where, you know, it's a very tacky look into a weird world, you know, of weirdness. It's like it's one of those things like, who would even get that involved or that excited about figure skating? It's kind of like, when they put the kids, the toddlers in tiaras and dress them up and we all kind of clap. It's got that weird feeling to it, and this film touches on that. But again, it does it in a very entertaining way that I was not expecting. I did not expect to enjoy this movie nearly as much as I did, because, like I said, a lot of films like this tend to kind of just sort of miss the mark a little bit. But this one, I thought, hit it squarely on the head and was very well done. Great performances all around. Allison Janney as her mother was amazing. Margot Robbie as Tonya Harding was spectacular. And his name is going to escape me. The guy who plays the Winter Soldier,
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan plays the goofy boyfriend in this, the loser, and he plays it perfectly, almost to the point where you like, that can't be Bucky. Like, so yeah, I really like that one a lot more than I thought. And all three of these films, honestly, like I said, if I had seen them in time, I don't know where on my list they would have fallen, but we would have been talking about them for sure. So I definitely recommend all three.
I could see that with all three. Nice list, dude. Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Now you.
Well, mine isn't as mine's a little more visceral, shall we say. Let's start with the one that surprised the ever-living hell out of me, It. I walked into It with a huge chip on my shoulder. Huge chip on my shoulder. I was like, you can't, no. Look, I didn't think the original TV series from the 90s was like perfect, but I always thought that Tim Curry was an excellent representation of Pennywise. So when I saw what they had done with him, and they'd kind of taken away the, hey, you know, he's kind of an approachable clown with that, you know, tiny little bit of something not right there, and made him like the scariest mother frickin' clown on the planet. And who the hell would approach it? Plus, they took it out of the 50s and made it an 80s movie and everything like that. A part of me is like, I don't know. But I got to tell you, man, the writer, the directors, the director, the writers, they really, really, really got this material, more so than I ever would have thought that they did. Not only did they get the material, but they made it work. They made it scary. I was actually scared a moment or two. And I found the effects to be amazing. I thought they were going to overdo the effects, and they kind of did, but they still did some practical stuff that still really, really got me, and I appreciated that. Great acting across the board from all the kids. Bill Skarsgård, you surprised the heck out of me. I mean, I guess I wasn't too surprised. I knew he was going to be scary. I just didn't expect him to have like creepy, you know? You need to kind of have that creepy. And it's spawning a sequel, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do it justice. I hope they stick the landing, so to speak. Speaking of sticking the landing, War for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, very good.
I was floored by the first Planet of the Apes movie, Birth of the Planet of the Apes. Or I don't remember exactly what it's called. I apologize.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Thank you. I went in there very skeptical, and this is going to be kind of like a theme today. I think I walked in skeptical, and I was quite amazed what they did with that first one. I really appreciated it, and I guess you could say that a lot of it depended upon the acting ability of Andy Serkis, because he is the one thing that has been through each of the movies.
Yeah.
And God darn it, that man just, he just really, really just brings life to it. And it's not like, people talk about, oh, well, it's CGI and so on and so forth. It's like, no, it's not just CGI. Because each character, they have little rigs on their faces. They're basically translating the actors' faces into these characters to make them work. Yeah. That's acting. And I found myself compelled by the story, and I was on board throughout the entire trilogy. Ridiculous as the general premise was, they made it work in all three movies. This is one of those rare trilogies where each one is excellent, I felt. I
wholeheartedly agree. I thought the last one was terrific, and I thought it was a great climax to a great series. I think the only problem I think I have with this series is that by the time they got to the second one, for some reason, they were relying on, I thought, very kind of B-grade actors, people that look a little more at home on television than movies, and I kind of thought that was the only thing about that film that made it look a little subpar, I think. Otherwise, yeah, that this whole trilogy was a knockout, frankly. Agreed,
100%. And definitely, yeah, these movies definitely would have been on my list in some form or another.
Yeah.
The last one that I have, this one was a nice little surprise for me, and I just kind of watched it on a whim. Coco. Now, Coco is a Pixar animated movie about an aspiring musician whose family has a ban on music. They're not allowed to play music, and this is the story of him not only trying to play music, but going through the land of the dead to meet his long-lost father to try to convince him to allow his family to allow music back into their lives. And I'm not doing the plot justice. It's first of all, it is seriously one of the most beautifully animated movies. So colorful, so rich and vibrant. I was compelled by the story. I found myself cheering along for little Miguel and for Hector. And by the way, Hector is played by Gael Garcia Bernal, who you might remember from Y Tu Mama Tambron.
Okay.
I completely pronounced it, but it's like a who's who of basically Hispanic actors in Hollywood, and I just found myself charmed by it. I loved it. I felt that it was really a beautiful movie. It told a beautiful story. I really enjoyed, that whole there's this whole underlying thing, and without giving much away, there's this whole underlying thing that the reason why they have the Day of the Dead is to remember the dead, because as long as you remember the dead are never really dead. And the idea is that once the last person forgets you, then you're nothing anymore. You basically just disappear. And I found that to be such a compelling and both exciting and yet sad idea. I don't want to give away any more. I'm going to suggest to you, Joe, please check it out. I think you might be pleasantly surprised by this one. And I'm also going to recommend it to the audience as well, please. I really enjoyed it.
Alrighty. I'll check it out. So that's 6 movies we just threw out that people should definitely check out if you haven't seen it already.
Right on.
Nice segment. I like this. See you here next year, my friend.
So you want to make a difference?
Yeah. Trust me, you're gonna love it.
And which branch are you interested in joining?
I'm gonna be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
During an adventure into the criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his future co-pilot Chewbacca and encounters Lando Calrissian years before joining the rebellion. Written by Jonathan Kasdan and Lawrence Kasdan, based on characters created by George Lucas, directed by Ron Howard, Solo, a Star Wars story. I am here to eat a tiny little bit of crow, ladies and gentlemen. Joe, after you.
Yeah, I will. Well, in the spirit of full disclosure, we, Dave and I have shot our video for this review, so we kind of have an insight as to what each one is going to say. But I believe we both surprised each other a little bit. I will say, as I mentioned before, I purposely tried very hard to go in open-minded for this film, even though I'm still. I mean, even no matter how long ago it's been already, The Last Jedi has really just sent me reeling from Star Wars in the worst possible way. And I frankly to the point where I was literally going to buy a ticket for something else just to join the the anti-Star Wars crusade, buy a ticket for something else and then slip in to see Solo so we could review it. But I did buy a ticket for Solo, but because I didn't want to get caught or whatever. Anyway,
Yeah,
the theater was too small for that to pull a fast one. So, anyway, but I did try to give this a shot, and I rewatched Rogue One before I saw this film, because that way I had at least the best possible taste in my mouth going in.
Mm-hmm.
As I was watching it, I was roughly about a third of the way into the film where I said to myself, am I enjoying this film? I think I am. I think I'm enjoying this. And honestly, as it went forward, I have to tell you, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I really thought this was pretty damn good, to the point where I'm starting to say to myself, I'm wondering if Kathleen Kennedy is steering clear of these little offshoot films and focusing mainly on ruining just the episode movies. Because
Don't
honestly,
hold back. Tell us how you really feel about Kathleen Kennedy.
I mean, honestly, I really felt like this was pretty devoid of any of that kind of crap that just is destroying the episode films. Maybe there's a one or two little winks to her, the little things she throws in for a little nod, little hey, look what I did. But that's kind of it. For the most part, this film was incredibly satisfying. I have to tell you, for the most part, I enjoyed all of it.
And I agree with you. And I that's why I've said I'm eating the biggest crow out of all this, because I have been a naysayer of naysayers from this movie since before the first trailer even hit. Since the minute they said, we're doing a movie about Han Solo. And I was like, who the hell needs that? I was the one with the get off my lawn attitude on that one.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
But pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised. I don't know at what point it was that I realized, oh my God, I'm enjoying this. I'm invested in this. And it wasn't the moment when Chewie and Han took their place in the front of the Falcon and the music swelled up. It wasn't that point. I did feel that little rush when it happened, but it wasn't that moment. I think I want to say it's the moment that they're doing the heist and the train heist, which, by the way, was really, really a well shot piece of action.
Yes.
All right. I think during the train heist, as I'm watching the train heist go along, and I'm seeing that everything's going south as they're going along, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I'm on board. I think I'm on board. The literal train, as well as the figurative one that is this movie. You know, because
Yeah.
I felt it was the moment I think when Jon Favreau's character, the multi-arm guy, when he died, I was kind of like, huh, they got an emotion out of me for a character that's been in the movie for all of 10 minutes. All right,
Yeah.
let's, I wasn't crying. This wasn't, this wasn't one of those Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good moments. But for a movie that just introduced this character less than maybe 7 or 8 minutes prior, for it to pull out that bit of emotion for me is kind of impressive, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know exactly when it was, but yeah, maybe it was around here. Because honestly, it was funny too. Because going back to when they first announced they were doing Solo, I remember us having very early conversations, and you were pretty much from the get go. You're like, no, we don't need this. We don't need. And I think both of us sort of had this, this fear that it was going to play out like the first 15 minutes of The Last Crusade, where you're just going to sum up everything we know about this character in a very short amount of time, serve it to you, and walk away. But I said from the get-go, I said I don't mind any backstory if they do it right. Anything can work if they just do it right, and I frankly feel like they did. I feel like what we ended up with this story was more or less, I think, the kind of sort of look and feel of how I would have predicted or how I would have imagined a Han Solo story. It's not the again, I've always said that I feel that the world of Star Wars is large enough and fleshed out enough that you can have a world of stories happen within this universe. And the proof is all the offshoot comics and the offshoot novels and some of the cartoon series that are working. Some work better than others, but a lot of them are terrific. So again, side stories can absolutely work in this universe. So, and I go back to Rogue One. I said I felt that one worked terrific. It was great. And again, I love how some of these films will take elements of Star Wars now and go off in different directions. Not to spoil something you said before, but you said they never mentioned the Force in this film.
Yes.
And which makes perfect sense. This is a world of rogues and scoundrels and pirates and smugglers. So, we're not going to go down that the light side, the dark side, that kind of stuff. We don't need to,
It exactly. Go on.
But it does in some ways. We'll get to it soon when we get into spoilers, but it does touch on other Star Wars references within the Star Wars universe that I did not expect. But listen, for the most part, I thought this really did work. I thought him, even the things that I was sort of rolling my eyes at in the trailers, by the way. Like, I kind of, there was, but it started out, he's racing the car around, looks like American Graffiti, and then he's, other scenes, he's got the guns at his hip, the angle looks like it's a cowboy scene or whatever. It's going to be a big showdown. And I'm like, all right, I almost felt like I was really dreading this kind of bombardment of that imagery. It's like, I get it. He's a space cowboy. He's a space, street racer. I get it. But the way they did it, I really felt that they pulled it off. And I thought I really got a great, and even the actor, again, I was very nervous about this actor, but I thought he impressed the hell out of me.
His name is,
there was moments
Alden
where I thought,
Ehrenreich. Alden Ehrenreich. Yes.
I thought there was moments where I couldn't tell if he was like the Han Solo I would have imagined. But again, if we had a guy doing a Han Solo impression the entire time, doing the voice, doing the whatever, the idea that this is a younger version worked, I thought. And I even the way that he meets Chewbacca, by the way, I liked it. I did not expect to like that. I thought for sure that's where they were going to drop the ball. But I even liked that part.
Which could have, it honestly could have been an easy place for them to drop the ball, because that's like
easily.
That's a relationship. Like, think of it this way: Anakin Skywalker meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. The first time you saw that in the Phantom Menace, you were kind of feeling like, oh, this is supposed to be a big thing. Why am I not feeling anything?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, when it happens, it's like, oh, I like that. I like that a lot. and I could totally see how that could definitely form a bond between the two of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, he does save his life. So there's the life debt right there. So, boom.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I did have sort of mixed feelings when he started making the noises. Like he's like, I've never seen him try to speak Chewbacca's native language. And,
Right.
and frankly, to the point where I just assumed, well, I don't think a human can. You know, I think we interpret their noises, but we can't really do that. To hear him trying to do it, I thought, all right, okay. That makes some sense, you know? It's kind of like when you travel to Paris and you do your best French and you still screw it up, but they at least give you a pat on the head for trying, you know?
And also, they didn't continue to use it. It was kind of like just that moment of, look, I understand Wookiee. And then they just like, okay, there, established, let's just move on, which was fine, which was just enough time for the audience to get it, because I think it would have sounded ridiculous. It would have been like, one of the things we complained about Star Trek Discovery was they're like, okay, we get it, you speak Klingon, this is getting a little out of hand now.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So no, I think they handled that perfectly fine. I don't have a lot of problems with many things about this movie. This is the first Star Wars movie where Chewbacca is solely played by a new person. Janos Soyotamo or something like that. He's like 6'9" or something like that. He's a huge guy. Peter Mayhew had been teaching him since Force Awakens how to handle the part, and he handles it just fine, if you ask me. He's got the little mannerisms and ticks down just right. Peter Mayhew can barely walk anymore, so I can't blame him for passing the baton on that one.
Yeah.
We've got Woody Harrelson as Beckett. He's Woody Harrelson. There's not much more you can say about that. Emilia Clarke surprised me as Kira. She's from Game of Thrones. She's best known as Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. And after the disaster that was Terminator Genesis, and if you haven't seen Terminator Genesis, you'll know exactly what I mean. I was actually surprised that she actually was able to pull off, that I felt sympathy for the character. She's a pretty lady, but she's never actually drawn me in as an actress before. She did pretty good here, so I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah.
And the wonderful Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian just seemed to fit that cape like nobody's business, didn't he?
He sure did. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the cast was pretty good. The girl who plays Kira, I really didn't have any problem with her at all.
Okay.
What I will say though is I am getting a little frustrated with all these Game of Thrones actors and actresses popping up places that don't seem to suit them very well. When I saw X-Men, I don't know if it was Future Past or Phoenix.
It was Apocalypse.
I mean, yeah, the girl who plays Jean Grey. I took one look at her, and I don't watch Game of Thrones. I really don't. I hear it's good. I just haven't tried it yet. But when I saw Apocalypse, I saw that girl. I said, she has to be from Game of Thrones. Because she's got that Game of Thrones look, and she looks completely out of place as Jean Grey. And sure enough. This one, again, not quite as bad. And I do like, by the way, I thought she did a pretty good job. Again, she's his young naive girlfriend from the home world, and the two of them are struggling, and then they get separated. Then later, when he runs into her again, she does have this aura of like, kid, you're not getting it. I'm not the same person I was. Right. I've made deals with the devil to get out of there, and I owe the devil a debt. And and that I thought was very cool too. I like that idea. That again, that the Han Solo thinks he's going to walk away with everything, but you can feel throughout the film that it's not going to go the way he wants. Because you got that vibe all along. Like, dude, this woman has already she made her bed, and she's lying in it. You missed out. So I thought that was pretty well played. I like that idea, and again, I think that contributes to the character of Han Solo. Again, a guy who has sort of learned a lot of the school. He came from the school of hard knocks. He learned hard lessons growing up, and that is sort of why he is the way he is. Yeah,
I would say that it was a very excellent deconstruction, so to speak, of Han, and without having to do the opening of Indiana Jones as you stated earlier, which was what we were both afraid of that. Full disclosure, I I didn't have a problem with it, with the opening of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as much as you did. But the other side of the coin is I completely get where you're coming from. And it's like, one day is all the backstory that he needs. He gets the scar, he gets the whip, he gets the snake fear, blah, blah, all in one day. Right. I completely get how derivative that is. And part of me was worried about it here. But it's a movie that doesn't take place over a day. It's a movie that takes place over years. This is a character that evolves as the movie goes. It takes place over years, over months. He's not naive. He's not completely stupid, but he's a little over his head and learning as he goes along. And I appreciated that. I liked that he wasn't like always correct. I liked that, even at the end when he made his when he made his plan and he thought of but this person's going to betray me and so on and so forth. He had all that in there, but still he still had that blind spot to the soft side of him. Yeah. Just like and I love that. I love that nice little touch.
That's actually, as you're talking about it, the like you said, the blind spot to the girl, that reminded me a lot of Casino Royale, by the way.
Yeah.
When again, Bond, he's in the poker game, he realizes that somebody has to be feeding the bad guy information, but he's so blinded to the idea that it could have been the girl that he assumes it's the guy. That it's the guy Mathis instead of Vesper. So, he just assumes it's him because it never occurs to him because he's so blinded by the idea that she could do it. And that happens here. And again, I thought, and like you said, I love the idea that it happened over a span of time, because I said to myself a long time ago, like this for this film to work, it needs to have an epic feel. It needs to have a progression of time and different things happening over a longer course of time than just some quick little 48-hour journey.
Agreed. It could have been much worse. And they made a lot of the right smart choices. There was definitely you could tell that the writers, for their foibles, the writers really, really love this universe. And they really appreciate what this universe stands for. I mean, they make these great little, side little things. Every once in a while, they'll just bring up something. They don't put a big spotlight on it. Not like that scene in Rogue One where they happen to pass Walrus Face and the other and the other dude is like, look, see, there they are. There's one scene where Kira just kind of like kicks the butt of this one character, and the robot's like, whoa, where'd you learn that? It's like Terrace Kazi. Just a throwaway line. Just like that. And I'm sitting in my seat going, because that's because of the old, it wasn't a great Star Wars game, don't get me wrong, but there was a fighting game called Masters of Terrace Kazi, which was basically Street Fighter / Mortal Kombat in a Star Wars vein. And the fighting style was called Terrace Kazi. So the fact that they made a callback to that was really, really nice for me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And not just the callbacks, but the honest to goodness story had me compelled. It's basically a movie that's a heist film, two heist films, and I really, really enjoyed that. I didn't 100% know exactly where it was going, and I couldn't believe that that's what happened to me as I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I totally agree with you. Like I said, one of the things that had me kind of. My brain was kind of first of all, it opens up with a non-title crawl. It opens up with words on the screen, but it's not a title crawl because that's for the other ones. So we have to just do different type on a screen. But but it's the same thing anyway. I remember trying to wrap my head around where on the timeline this happens. And you don't really have to, I suppose, because the story just runs. You can trust the story to just kind of go where it's going. And you don't have to sort of arm yourself with the knowledge beforehand. But I was really struggling with, where does this happen again? I'm like, all right, it's after episode 3, but it's before Rogue One. So I'm trying to place where are we with the Empire now? So okay, it kind of, and I was all right. I'm getting it, and I was kind of curious. I mean, there was parts when the Empire again, they really did kind of go overboard in the beginning, showing, war sucks and we're basically just taking over places and stuff. And I was like, all right, yeah, I guess the Empire just didn't pop up one day. I mean, put it this way, the lack of of proper storytelling that happened in the prequels, for example, it just seemed like something happened and now boom, the Empire. All right, well, I guess at the top levels that's what it looks like, but on the ground, yeah, we had to send in troops to go over and conquer planets. Not everybody was playing ball right away. So I thought that was good. Again, these films really do flesh out, I think, the realities that would happen, much better than those episodes, prequels or new or whatever, could ever do. I mean, that's kind of what I really like about these films, is that they really do sort of, they shade in the other areas that you sort of take for granted, I guess. But it's almost like, whereas the episodes are again happening at the top levels, I guess, where the top generals and the top people making decisions and, the top baddies. All right, well, where everything seems so cut and dry up there, these are happening down in a place where they feel more realistic, where the effects of those things are happening. And that's the world we live in, and that's the struggle we have. So again, I kind of feel like so far anyway, the standalone films are head and shoulders above these episode films, and that is probably one of the reasons why. It's because it sort of, the action sort of happens at more of an understandable level, I guess.
It's not constrained with having to tell an overarching story, even though it seems that the stories...
And the episodes are?
I was just about to add, even though it also seems that the other episodes don't seem to be as well. They seem to be just, going on the fly willy-nilly. There's no having to deal with the Force. Heck, even R2-D2 and C-3PO. This is the first Star Wars movie where R2-D2 and C-3PO do not appear.
Very true, yep.
All right, no mention of the Force, no R2-D2, C-3PO. In a way, Han Solo has carved its own niche. And I kind of feel bad for bad-mouthing as much as I did. My son, he's kind of adorable. He is convinced, I don't know if I told you this, he's convinced that The Last Jedi started getting bad reviews because you and I broke the mold from everybody else. He really, really believes that.
Really?
Okay. He does. And bless him for it.
I love that kid, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I keep telling him, Liam, I don't have that much influence. I appreciate that you think that I do, but I do not. But, now we're in the reverse situation. I kind of feel bad now for all the bad-mouthing that I have done to this movie. And now that I'm hearing that its box office is tepid at best, I'm like, no, people need to see this movie. People need to see this movie. I want to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm saying I want to know what happens next.
Right. Yeah. I mean, same here. I mean, again, it's hard to know what to do with this mess. Again, aside from just tarring and feathering Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know exactly what else to do with these. Because again, everybody was basically going to boycott Solo because of the mess that they've created with these other films. But now that it's come out and I see that it's actually good, I want to steer them and say, look, guys, here's where you're going right, there's where you're going wrong. Stop with that nonsense over there and let these guys do what they're doing here. Listen, if this is the first film in a trilogy that will explore him and Jabba the Hutt and all that other stuff and maybe Boba Fett, who knows, bring it on. I'm apparently Darth Maul also. Bring this on. I am interested. They've got me hooked. I'm interested to see where this goes. So
dude, I'm with you. I'm completely with you, and I'm surprised how much I'm with you on this one. And I apologize for interrupting you, but
no,
I expected to come into this podcast. I mean, dude, what was the last text I sent you? I think it was like, I said, well, I'm heading to the movies now, and you were like, good, enjoy, and I'm like, probably not, but thanks for the well wishes.
Right.
This is how negative I walked into this damn movie.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact that here we are extolling its virtues should say something. Is it a perfect movie? No, it's not. Is it? It's certainly. I would definitely say it's better than Last Jedi easily, and is probably better than Force Awakens.
I think it's head and shoulders above those. Well, first of all, just to go back to what you were saying. I mean, I literally had nothing to do. I guess I don't know. Was it Friday night? and I literally drove past the theater right around the time the movie was going to start, and I was like, oh, should I go see it tonight? I got nothing to do, and I was like, you know what? I'm not up for it yet. I put off seeing this film because I was like, whatever. I was so, by the time it came around to actually seeing it, like I said, I was so, the word is tepid. I was so lukewarm on it. I was like, whatever. But yeah. What'd you say after that?
I was saying that this was certainly better than Last Jedi, and may even be better than Force Awakens.
It's light years ahead of Last Jedi is. I mean, I've never actually really thought to do like a ranking of all the Star Wars films, but The Last Jedi is by far the worst of any Star Wars related anything.
And he means the prequels too, ladies and gentlemen.
I really do. I never thought I would say that, but this one again, The Last Jedi is offensive. It is an absolute middle finger to Star Wars fans. How they can't see that, I'll never understand. And again, God bless the youngins like Liam who probably don't see it the way we see it. And I get that. I get it that just on a surface level. It's a good-looking film. It's exciting. It's got action. Fair enough. And who doesn't want to rescue big bunny dogs, big bunny dog horses? So okay, I get that. But again, when you see it through adult eyes, you realize what this film is. No, this one I would put this on par with. I don't know if I would put it up there with Rogue One exactly. But as far as I'm concerned, it is up there with Rogue One, which, by the way, was my top film of 2016.
I remember.
And again, when I rewatched Rogue One, I remembered all the things I liked about it. And by the time they get to the end, see, again, think about it. It's as simple as this. What do I want from a Star Wars sequel? Or what do I want from a modern incarnation of a Star Wars film? I want to recapture a little of that feeling I had when I saw the originals. And that's a tall order. But by the time they get to the end of Rogue One, when the fleet shows up and the music swells and I'm even seeing like faces from the original film, oh my God, I am just going crazy. I'm just loving the hell out of it, and I'm really enjoying it in terms of like a little slice of how I felt when I was young. Mm-hmm. Now this one, I don't know if I'd even put it on that level, because I think I enjoyed this one more for its originality, and for its ability to live in the Star Wars universe without rewriting things. I mean, that's the struggle with the Last Jedi. They change all the lore that goes along with Star Wars. Why? There is so much in this universe that's untapped, untouched, that you can play in. To have to twist it around to fit your small vision doesn't make any sense. This one exists in the Star Wars world without mucking things up. I mean, it expands on things we haven't seen. It's just things that we sort of heard about or speculated on, but it doesn't alter things. So again, I think this one is phenomenal, and I find it to be up there with Rogue One. I can't believe I'm gushing about this film. Really can't. I mean, seriously, no one is more shocked than I am that I really enjoy this film this much. I mean, I even to the point where Mary even said to me, like, I had to see it. Mary's down the shore this weekend for Memorial Day. So I had to see it alone. And she was mildly disappointed that she couldn't see it. She goes, "Oh, I really would like to see that film." And I'm like, "Ugh, are you crazy?" I'm like, I'll tell you all about it after I see it. But I texted her afterwards. I said, "Hey, I'll take you to see this anytime you want. I'll see this again." And it was funny because I think the things that she was imagining, like a cowboy smuggler rogue kind of a Star Wars story, and I was kind of poo-pooing it, going like, "Yeah, you'd think it'd be that, but it's not going to be that." It was. It's exactly what it was.
It was. It shouldn't. Everything about this film told me it shouldn't work. Between the movie losing its directors, between bringing in the safest director on the planet. No offense to Ron Howard. I do like you, Ron Howard, but you're a very safe director. You're not a director that I see takes chances. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it shouldn't work. About the only there is one thing, I'm going to mention it during Who Asked You, but there is one thing that just I didn't particularly care for, but solid movie across the board. Solid adventure. Solid fun, where you actually were rooting for the good guys and the bad guys felt sufficiently bad.
Yeah.
And, the little twists that they have here and there, not like, major or anything like that, but still nice, fun, good times. I was one of those people that when Darth Maul showed up as the leader of Crimson Dawn, I was like, oh my God, that's freaking awesome. I was just so happy about that because not many people realize this, but in the Clone Wars TV series and the Star Wars Rebels TV series, Maul has a huge presence in those series.
Yeah.
Like a seriously huge presence and an awesome presence throughout the series. So they totally paid homage to him by having him be, the leader of Crimson Dawn down to his mechanical legs that he receives. They got Ray Park to actually play the part, which I'm hoping means that we're going to get to see some great freaking Darth Maul-esque action from him at some point down the line. I'm not sure when. I see Darth Maul versus Han Solo being an extremely brief match, so I'm hoping it's not that, but I'm just, there's possibility here. And I didn't think that it was possible that this would have possibility. And I'm excited by that possibility. And I want to see more.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you there.
You look good. A little rough around the edges, but good.
Heard about a job. Big shot gangster putting together crew.
I'm a driver, and I'm a flyer. I waited a long time for a shot like this. What do you think? Well, what do you know?
And we're at that time, Joe.
Are we?
Yep.
Yes, we are.
51 minutes, dude.
All right.
I keep my timing going here. And we are there. We are at that point. So, for the movie that I was a complete dick to from the day that it was first announced, the movie that I eventually broke down and got Joe on my side with not looking forward to it, to the point that we both walked into the theater like somebody just killed our dogs and said, "You will bring them back to life if you watch this movie." Joe, how did you score Solo, a Star Wars story?
Probably as you probably will guess, I gave it an 8. Again, there's a part of me that's even willing to even go a little higher, but I think I'm gonna wait until I see it again, subsequent viewings and stuff. But again, I was very surprised with how they handled it. They gave it the proper epicness to it. It was not a quick little, it was not the first 15 minutes of Last Crusade. It was, they took their time. They gave us a story. I mean, I'll even go as far as to call this a sweeping epic of a story, because again, I love the idea of the romance, the doomed romance was great. I love how that, and again, over time, and how people, frankly, it almost has like a Scarlett O'Hara kind of Rhett Butler kind of a thing to it.
Yeah.
Where it's a doomed romance, not a happily ever after kind of a thing. It had a maturity to it. They did things in a way that there were nothing that I would call a cop out, frankly. Mm-hmm. And again, I thought they gave each character their due. They had good dialogue. Everything was really top notch. And again, I almost feel like maybe an 8 is a little dismissive. I mean, I like I said, I gave Rogue One I don't know if we haven't reviewed that. We'll do that next week, by the way.
Yeah.
Which by the way is only because they again goofed up. There was a lot of films this year that they really messed around in the schedule.
Yeah, we had a very neat schedule going on here. It was going to be Rogue One before we did Han Solo originally.
Yeah, and again,
I don't know. And it was Deadpool and Infinity War that screwed it up. Those guys got moved around.
What was it? And Solo also didn't Solo also get moved? I thought Solo was going to be next week.
I don't remember exactly. I maybe. It came out on the 41st anniversary of the release of Star Wars. So It seems to me like that would be something they would do on purpose.
Yeah, that could be. Again, though, they might have shot themselves in the foot because again, I think part of not only do you have the Star Wars fatigue after The Last Jedi, but you're coming up after Infinity War and Deadpool 2. So like people's money budget has been spent.
Yeah, pretty much. And movies ain't cheap.
Yeah. But anyway, my friend, what did you score it?
I also gave it an 8. I was thoroughly shocked, surprised, and entertained. Honestly, I was going to go with a 7, and the only reason I was going to go with a 7 was because I just kind of felt like I still question the necessity of a backstory for a character, which I felt had enough backstory. But I gave it an 8 because I was like, you know what? Not only did you show me that you can do a character's backstory well, because think of the last time they tried to do a backstory in the Star Wars universe. That was the prequel trilogy. The backstory of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. And they didn't do it that well. And nothing gave me the indication that this was going to be any different. So I am pleasantly, wonderfully surprised. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I was geeking out at just the right moments. I was compelled. I was shocked. I had my moments of surprise. And yeah, I bravo to everybody involved in this movie. I don't know what you did or didn't do that was so different from what you did with Last Jedi or any of the ones, but gosh darn it, you made a believer out of me. Bring me more.
Agreed.
Seriously, I mean, the plotting worked very well. It wasn't plotting. It still explained itself. It didn't over. It showed you, hey, this is the Star Wars universe. We like this Star Wars universe. The slight mention of Bossk, Teräs Käsi, the showing up of Darth Maul near the end. All these little things. Of them, Darth Maul was the biggest ta-ta-ta moment, and it was still handled well. And I just, maybe there is something to be said about having a reliable director like Ron Howard be the person to bring this home. Maybe there is something to be said about that. I don't know. The problem is this is a movie that's going to get a postmortem like maybe 10 or 20 years from now. That's probably going to really go over what really happened and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pleased this movie exists. I'm pleased. I kind of feel like we've gotten 3 holes in ones in a row this summer.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's been a damn good summer. I tell you, I really feel like, I said this last year too. I said, there were a lot more films that I ended up being pleasantly surprised by than I did, kind of rolling my eyes. And this one seems to be following suit. And you're absolutely right. I am, especially after having seen the film, I'm more curious now to know what all the behind the scenes shenanigans were about. Because if I had to guess, I thought for sure we were going to get, another girl power film, frankly. I was pretty convinced that Kathleen Kennedy was not getting that from the last directors, and decided, if she's going to get her message through, it's good. She's going to have to get in and do something different. But that's not what this was at all. I mean, again, we'll talk more about it shortly. I did feel like there was like a little bit of a carrier of the torch a little bit to say, don't forget the girl power stuff. But overall, I didn't find that it didn't affect the overall story, didn't affect the overall mood. I mean, basically with The Last Jedi, the politics was the story almost. Whereas here, if they're trying to get little messages in, that's fine because you're just kind of it's in between the rest of the story, which works. I mean, the femme fatale, I could even use that word in this story, is certainly she seemed to be capable, but did not exactly seem to exude strength because again she had to bargain with the devil to get to where she was. Mm-hmm. So again, I was much more impressed with this story than I was really. They really did set us up to think this was going to be another stink bomb.
Yeah, so they did.
Again, that's on them, and that's on The Last Jedi and Rian Johnson. Like, I'm sorry, you guys can't throw that kind of crap at people and think that you're just going to bounce back for the next one. But again, I do hope people support this story. I really hope people get behind this film and say, look, this is what's working. The funny part is, the episodes have been struggling ever since The Empire Strikes Back, depending on who you ask. But these offshoots are pretty good, and that goes for the TV shows too, by the way. Like it's the stuff that they do. Even remember the first Clone Wars that was animated as a cartoon.
Oh, the guy who did Samurai Jack. That was freaking awesome.
That was awesome. I mean, it's the stuff that they do on the sides. You know, aside, not including the holiday special, maybe, but you know, it's the side stories are the best ones.
Yeah, so far that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect. It certainly is not perfect. So who asked you, Joe?
Who asked me? My runner-up is going to be Woody Harrelson saying, "Don't trust anyone and you won't be disappointed." Because I kind of felt like that was the moment where you realize, okay, you pretty much suspected he was gonna screw him over in the end. Because quite frankly, there was a part of me that was feeling, even from the beginning, that no matter what kind of a rotten dirtbag Woody Harrelson was to Han Solo was really, really, really trying to get into that guy's good graces.
Yeah.
And so when he finally comes out and says, you know, don't trust anybody and you'll never be disappointed, it was almost like they really sort of telegraphed that punch. But anyway, that was just a minor noticeable thing. My real Who Asked You is naturally the female the female robot who is the bra burning robot who is going to free all the other robots, which again I don't quite get it, and it's almost like I almost felt like if Kathleen Kennedy had to contribute something, it's like she said, look, you guys can have this movie and do whatever you want. I want one character that reflects me and my message. And I kind of felt like this was it. And she's for the downtrodden and she's going to, yada. All right, I get it. But again, I'm saying to myself, I don't get why a robot would have that kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like at one point, like literally, like Lando says something like, you know, robot, do you need anything? She goes, equal rights. And I'm like,
yeah.
Of course, I mean, again, which got my collective yawn going. Like, really? Like, I don't get that. Like, why would I don't know. It's almost like they try to inject any kind of a 60s liberal cause into the film some way and make a character that you feel, okay, well, who would be oppressed in this world? Well, it would be the robots. You think? I guess. So, like, is my coffee maker at one point gonna get pissed off for being a lowly coffee maker and rebel and something or other? Like, why we? Well, it didn't make any sense. Like, again, for a robot to do that, you have to build that and put that in it, program it in there. Again, I don't mind the message if the storytelling works. If you show me a flesh and blood character who's doing that, I can't complain. But to put that into a robot doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And again, I get that robots in the Star Wars world have personalities. That shines clearly. I understand that. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, R2-D2 is always a little spunkier and a little more free-spirited than C-3PO. I get that. But to a point, for the robot to complain, again, it's like now you're giving it like the Pinocchio syndrome. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a real boy, no strings on me.
Okay, Ultron.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna reel you back a little bit simply because I'm actually on the same page. That's my Who Asked You.
Is it right?
Oh yeah, and I kind of feel like before you cover everything and leave me with "Yep, I agree," I'm gonna kind of steal your thunder a tiny little bit.
Feel free.
Okay. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I am a fan of a TV show called Rick and Morty. I am not one of those idiots who went to McDonald's freaking out about Szechuan sauce. Okay, I enjoy the show what it is. If you ever want to get an idea of why I like Rick and Morty, there's this one episode where they're sitting at the dinner table. They're having just a regular old conversation. Rick, the main character, is tinkering with a little robot. He powers the robot on. the robot looks up at Rick, says, "What is my purpose?" And Rick says, "Pass the butter." And the robot goes, grabs the butter, brings it to Rick. And, the dialogue continues on, and the robot's kind of looking at itself. Suddenly has an existential crisis. What is my purpose? And Rick's response is, "You pass the butter." And the robot just says, "Oh my God." He's like, "Yep, welcome to my world." It's a frickin' robot. This is not Westworld. Ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
This is not Westworld. They are not designed to look like people. They are designed with a function that fulfills the task that they do. The Gonk robots look like Gonk robots because they're basically walking batteries. So they look that way because they're walking batteries. The protocol droids look the way that they do because it is their job to be interpreters and to assist. So they kind of have some kind of human qualities. R2-D2 looks the way he does because he is basically a mechanic inside he's basically a mechanic. He doesn't need to be big or anything like that. He's got all of his tools. He's a giant walking Swiss Army knife. This is the purpose of droids within Star Wars. It is not some artificial intelligence power to the people, fight back against the man, fight the power, or anything like that. It was such an off-base remark. It's such an off-base little thing. It's something, it's like, well, we've never explored that before. It's like, okay, where did it need to be explored?
Right.
How in what respect did it need to be? Okay, granted, yes, it kind of drove at one point where the quote-unquote robot rebellion on the planet was the thing that got them out, but it also got freaking L3 destroyed. I kind of felt like they were trying to build a character that you can kind of sort of feel for so that when they got destroyed later in the movie, you would feel bad. And frankly, no. When L3 finally died, I was like, oh, good, shut up. But then Lando comes over to L3 and grabs his parts, and like, God bless Donald Glover, he gave that all. I felt this was like when I saw Forrest Gump. Like people, were crying at the end of Forrest Gump, and they're like, Jenny. It's like, Jenny? No, I wasn't crying for Jenny. I was crying for Forrest.
Right. Yeah.
Because what the hell did Jenny do for him through his entire life other than just pop in when it was convenient for her, drop off a kid, and then die?
Exactly, yeah.
I get there's a lot more going on there, and I get the psychology of Jenny. And yes, there are people out there that defend Jenny and so on, whatever. But in this particular case, L3, what would have been a better way of doing L3? There was one point where Kira and L3 were in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, and Kira's complaining about, Han being, a boyfriend, and L3's like, tell me about it. I have the same problem with Lando. And I was kind of like, now that's more fascinating.
It was, yes. That was funny, and it had like some potential for more funny. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, that I would have liked to have explored. Not the women's lib, white power, black power, whatever insert cause that L3 was supposed to represent. I don't know. I don't really care. That just it's such a shortcut of a character growth. And I kind of felt like when you have all these characters of complexity going on in the background, to just simply have this like stereotype basically beating you in the face, just kind of was like, for God's sake, Sandy Newton's character, she's in the movie for all of 10 minutes. Sandy Newton's character felt more fleshed out than L3 did.
Yeah. I mean, that is the problem too. I mean, again, I hate to even go down this road, but again, when they put it in the movies, I'm going to talk about it. It's like these people are really stuck in the 60s, and they just want some cause, and they want someone in the movie to go, oppression and liberation, and it's like, okay. I mean, to the point where now we're doing it with the Rock. I mean, again, what I will say about this film though is that it was not nearly. I mean, the whole story was not subverted for that. In the way that, again, like in The Last Jedi, we got to spend half the film rescuing bunny horses because, boo, that's mean, and we're going to spend half the film rescuing the horses instead of rescuing the people that are on the ships on the other side of the galaxy, by the way.
And another huge difference, if I may interrupt, in this case, her rebellion actually moved the plot forward in a positive way. That robot rebellion is what was able to help them.
Yeah.
I'm not defending the choice. I'm just pointing out the difference being is that entire subplot in Last Jedi was useless. It did nothing.
Right.
Nothing
Exactly.
changed. Whereas at least here, it had an element of change to the plot. Please continue. I apologize.
That's it. I mean, you're right. I mean, if there was any effect on the overall story, it was a positive one as opposed to the other one that did nothing. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, and frankly, again, I don't find it to be wildly offensive. I just say it's almost like Kathleen Kennedy had 1 or 2 days in the set to wave and say, "I want this." And she got it, and it's like, okay, Kathleen, now go home. You know, you got you made your little point, you did your little whatever, and now get out of here. It's just again, just doesn't belong in Star Wars. I really wish they would stop with that stuff, and altogether. But again, here it was very minor. It was much more subtle in here than it was in any way, shape, or form in Last Jedi. Last Jedi, it was as subtle as a turd on a white carpet. So,
and what about for your consideration, sir?
For my consideration, boy, I'm gonna go with the scene where Han meets Chewie. Frankly, and honestly, I really want to give it to the overall feel of the film because I mean, I kind of feel like at the end of the day, there is a sweeping nature to this film that I think really does work. So I really want to give some props to the directors, plural, I guess, and just the overall art direction because I think a lot of it really did work nicely. But yeah, I'll just go with the meeting of Han and Chewie, which again, that probably was the aspect of this film that I was really nervous about because like you said, it could easily have been Ben Kenobi meet Anakin Skywalker. And just okay, and now we're friends from here on out. No, I mean it could have been overly done. They really just sort of got it right, and I almost can't even put my finger on exactly why, but it was enough of a surprise, enough of a star-crossed people, intersecting in a strange way that it was both interesting, both keeping in line with I think what we come to know about these characters. I mean, I really just thought again, it's to say that I want to give it the most praise because it was the most dangerous, I guess, is sort of weird, but that's how I feel. This is really where it could have gone sideways, but they pulled that off and they made the relationship very believable. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's what it's about. If you can make your people believable if you believe their motivations and everything and you can get on board with their what they want, it works. That's what they did with this film.
They definitely didn't take you knew they were destined to be friends, but they didn't take that for granted, and
yes,
you got to appreciate that.
Right.
Runner up for me is going to be Ron Howard. I have no idea what the hell he walked into, but he pulled it off as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
But for me, I'm going to go with the here's the thing. Force Awakens, every time I watch it, just felt like a pander. An entire movie of pandering. And then Last Jedi comes along and it's like, oh, well, we're not pandering to you anymore. Screw you. We don't care about you anymore. We've got a whole other group of people that we want on our side. Okay? Yeah. This movie balanced that perfectly. It didn't put the stuff in your face, but it reminded you, we know where we are.
Yeah.
We know what this means to you. This isn't, we're taking this seriously. We're not forgetting who got us here. We're not forgetting the things that brought us here. Mm-hmm. And we will not talk down to you or belittle you. My problem with The Last Jedi has always been, I kind of felt like it was talking down to people who were Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
Saying this is no longer yours.
Absolutely.
And you know what? You want to say that we're trying to do something different? I wouldn't have had a problem with that because I understand you're building a business and so on and so forth. Whatever. That's fine. You didn't have to be so cruel about it. And that's what Last Jedi felt like a cruel like you've just given a toy to a child, and so you like that toy, and you've taken the child and you've ripped its head off and threw it down the child's feet.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or like the bully in like the stereotypical bully is like, oh, what baseball card is that? Oh, it's Mickey Mantle. Hey, can I see that? And then just tear the card in front of you. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Not here. Here, this was somebody who loved it as much as we do, and said we get it, and not only that, told a story that was compelling, that felt Star Wars. Even though it said nothing of the Force, even though it had nothing of the of R2D2 and C-3PO.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this film also knows the difference between simple fan service and putting in familiar elements that would fit with the story.
Right.
Like Darth Maul, his place in this it fits in terms of the bigger Star Wars universe, as opposed to just sort of bumping into somebody on the street saying he doesn't like you.
Sorry. A surprise.
Very pleasant surprise.
A surprise to be sure.
Yeah.
But
I really, again, I pray that episode 9 could care less, but I tell you, if they keep giving these spin-off stories to competent people, I think there's a lot that can happen. Maybe there seems enough intelligence behind this script, behind the story, and the potential future stories. Maybe they got somebody somewhere who knows what they're doing, like somebody like a Kevin Feige who might have a plan for these stories.
I doubt it.
Fingers crossed. Am I hoping? Am I?
Here's your hope. Here is your hope. James Mangold, Boba Fett. There's your hope.
Well, yes, agreed. But again, somebody wrote this script. Somebody wrote it very competently, and somebody knew. Again, knows and loves and understands the larger Star Wars universe. So my only hope is that maybe there are some brains in this Star Wars mix somehow, that can kind of get this series back on track. I mean, the episode stories are done. I mean, there's nothing can happen in episode 9 that'll redeem the last 2. So I'm not even that's not even my hope. I just hope to get more, and because we will get more. I'm hoping to get more good, competent stories like this one, like Solo and like Rogue One.
And speaking of Rogue One, next week, ladies and gentlemen,
Spoilers, I end up liking it.
Yeah, we will be reviewing Rogue One a little more in depth, but I'm Joe is wearing his heart on his sleeve about Rogue One, but notice how quiet I've been.
Yeah, even when I reviewed it originally, I put it on the top of my list. You were very quiet, so I am interested to see what you think about this film.
It's been a while since I've watched it, so a rewatch will definitely make a difference, I'm sure. But yes, next week we will be reviewing Rogue One, and the summer continues. But actually, we'll talk about it next week. Joe will be taking a tiny sabbatical for 2 weeks,
right.
We will discuss that in next week's episode and let you know exactly how we're going to handle it. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, you all have a great night. Joe, I am pleased as punch that we did this movie in the end. We were talking about taking it off the calendar. Right? I'm so glad we did it.
Seriously. We actually even talked about just taking it off altogether. We were so disgusted by the idea.
Yep.
I am glad to. So well done, my friend.
Indeed. Have a great week.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright.